All right, so we're good. So with our live lesson número 2 tonight for el 22 de junio, we are with our live lesson number 2, we're going to be taking a look at unit 2 together. And unit 2 is due el 26 de junio. So it's coming up this week and we're looking at more or less a unit due each week. There will be one or two, there will be a week that comes up that we won't have a due date. But then there's some other weeks where there might be 2, just depending on the size of the unit. And keep in mind that the pacing guides listed down here with all of those due dates kind of ready to go with those items. So with that being said, I have this item on the agenda that's called Review and Redo. And there is a video within the class that I've been sharing out that just mentions, be sure to check out this video about grading. So we had our first deadline last Friday, and even well, our first deadline was last Wednesday with our intro assignments, but the next deadline was for unit 1 on Friday. And with that comes some, if there's an assignment that you've completed and you maybe were like, I didn't do so well on that. Or if there's an assignment that you missed and there's a 0 in its place, you can go back and review and redo any assignment for a better grade. So I just will highlight that almost every single live lesson, and I'll continue to share out the video about grading and how to go back and look at feedback and things like that. So I kind of knocked out the first few bullets. So we're going to jump right into unit 2. And the live lessons, like I mentioned last week, I generally try to keep them around 30 minutes. And with this being summer, if it goes over a little bit, 30 minutes just to get through some of the tasks together, I feel like that's okay. That way you can come back and access it at another time. So with that being said, of course, at the beginning of this unit, units 1 through 6, unit 7 does not have a notebook check, but there is the beginning of that notebook check, and you'll be able to access that directly from or underneath that unit 2 that is listed here. And keep in mind that the notebook checks, each of these bullets generally align with the concepts that are listed. So you can see we're going to do notes on saber y conocer, and there's concept 1. We're going to do notes on tener que and ir a, and there is concept 2. Notes on tan y tanto, and that is actually going to be concept 5. And then I'll highlight kind of where some of the vocabulary is throughout it. So our first task here is just called Práctica de Vocabulario, and it's around saber y conocer. So keep in mind that each of these concepts, this chart right here with the vocabulary, each of these concepts, so if I were to click on concept 1, sabes y conoces, or click on concept 2, concept 3, each of them has a chart that looks like this with all of the vocabulary. But for this specific assignment, you're going to create a presentation, and it does not have to be in PowerPoint. It can be, of course, Google, things like that. But you are going to pick 30 of the words and write 30 sentences, and then you'll include a picture with them. So any of these items. So I'm going to do a few examples together. So we're here, we're looking at our Práctica de Vocabulario. And this is where you are picking 30 words and doing 30 sentences. So one of the words that is listed here is the verb jugar. So I could say, me gusta jugar el partido de, Okay, so I like to play. So here's my word, the game, sorry. So I'm going to jump down, just head this way, grab another one. So here we have la guitarra or el piano. So I could say, yo toco el piano a veces. Okay, sometimes I play the piano. So here is our word for piano. So the next one, I'll just go ahead and grab. I may look at here, el or la cantante. So I might say, me gusta la cantante Shakira. Okay, so here is my singer, and there's one of my words. So then what I would do is once I get my 30 sentences written, I may go and kind of just search for or insert an image with each of these. And I'll go ahead and just grab one here. So, sorry. And let's see. So, yes, we will insert that one and you'll kind of find an image. And again, you can use Google Slides. You can use, even if you prefer a Google Doc and have all of your sentences on there, kind of how it's created isn't the important part. The important part is what is within the sentences with that vocabulary. So let's go ahead and jump back. We're going to move on to las formas de conocer y saber. So looking at these two words, saber y conocer, they both mean the same thing. And both of them mean to know. So saber is to know something. To know something. And conocer is to know someone. Okay, and I'm going to put person here. So both of these verbs mean the same thing, but there are different usages. So this first assignment that we're looking at, it's one that is about our conjugations. So if you were to go into our class here, our concept 1 instructional materials, there's our vocabulary. You'll practice the vocab. There's a nice video here about how to use saber y conocer. And then here are our lovely verb conjugations, okay, of these two verbs. So let's go ahead and stick that here. So one's to know something and one is to know or be acquainted with a person. So we're going to do some of this practice together. So I'm going to move this over here. All right, because I want for you to be able to see both there we go. So we have on our right, our verb conjugations. Then over here on our left, we are going to go ahead and have the practice. So when you look at these, you're going to conjugate the verb that's off to the left or off to the right. And it's either going to be saber y conocer. So we have los jugadores. So the first step is to take off the ER. And when we're looking at players, ellos, we're going to add the appropriate ending. So los jugadores saben. Okay, so the players know, and they may know how to play well. So nosotros, we have our verb conocer. We're going to take off the ER, look at our nosotros, and we're going to add our hemos. Nosotros conocemos a la maestra. So they know, or we know, the teacher. So now we have las animadoras y yo. So the cheerleaders and I. So here we're going to take our verb saber, take off the ER, and we're going to use the nosotros ending here for sabemos. And we'll do two more together. So we have el equipo, the team. We're going to take our verb conocer, take off that ER, and add for one team, el equipo, we're going to go ahead and add an E. El equipo conoce. Then we have mis amigos and the verb saber. We're going to take off that ER for ellos and add our appropriate ending. So you'll use these verb conjugations to complete this practice, and there's only a few more on that. So the very next step, once you use the vocab, take a look at the conjugations and practice those forms. The last assignment is called saber versus conocer. How are you going to use them? And with this, you're going to write 10 sentences. 5 will be with conocer and 5 will be with saber. So I'm going to jump back here. So you're going to do, you would want to do 5 with saber and then 5 with conocer. So we'll do some examples here. So I might say, yo no sé cantar bien. So I don't know how to sing well. Okay. So I'll do another example here. Mi hija Sawyer sabe nadar en un equipo. Okay, so she knows, my daughter Sawyer knows how to swim on a swim team or on a team. Okay, so now I'm going to move to conocer. So I might say, yo conozco el presidente. Okay, so I know the president. I know who it is. Okay, so I might do another one and I'll use mi hijo, Connor. Conoce a su maestra. Okay, so my son Connor knows his teacher. So it's looking at people. So conocers with becoming acquainted with, and saber is to know how to do something. So you'll do 3 more sentences for each of them to come up with that 10 total. So now we'll jump back and we're moving right along into our concept 2. Task 1 is about el verbo ir. So let me go ahead and open that up and I'm just going to jump back here and we are going to check out first the concept. So again, if I were to click on concept 1, tengo que pero voy a, that is where you'll have a list of vocab on each of those items. And looking at our concept here with our tengo que pero voy a, there's a nice little video here that will explain some things. And then our first practice is just with the verb ir. So with ir, you are going to, and this is a little bit of a review from Spanish 1. So I'm going to start this practice and then let's go ahead and we'll do what we did before. I'm just going to add a little something here. El verbo ir. And you know what? Let's just grab an image. Ir, verb, conjugation. Right. And I do this pretty often just to kind of check things out. This one looks good. So, ir means to go. And we'll place this in here so we can refer back to it if needed and use it to go with our practice here. So with this verb conjugation, you are going to take a look at the sentences and conjugate the verb ir. So we have la profesora blank a la biblioteca. So ella, la profesora, va a la biblioteca. She goes to the library. Yo blank al gimnasio. So here we're going to take our verb ir and use voy. Yo voy al gimnasio. Then we have mis amigos y yo, which means my friends and I, and we'll take our verb ir and use vamos. Now this one, porque ustedes blank a la escuela. So why are you all going to school? So we're using ustedes. So here we're going to use van. I will do one more together here. So we have Juan y Sofía blank a la iglesia. So we're going to use van for ellos, for they. So you'll go through and complete the rest of those with these verb conjugations for the verb ir, which means, again, to go. So our next step on our agenda, once we take a look at that verb ir, voy a, porque tengo que. So this is an assignment where we're saying, I'm going to this place because I have to do something. So you're going to come up with 10 sentences that use the verb ir along with tener. And with our verb ir plus a, so a form of ir plus a plus an infinitive. And an infinitive is a verb that has the AR-ER-IR on the end, is referring to something you're going to do in the near future. So if you have the verb tener plus the word que plus an infinitive also, it's saying that you have to do something. So for this assignment, you're going to come up with 10 sentences using these 2 forms. So let's do a few together. So first, I'm going to come up with, here we go, yo voy. So I have my form of verb ir. I'm going to add an a. Yo voy a. And you can have an infinitive or you can just have a place. So I might say, yo voy a la piscina. Okay. Porque. So tengo que nadar. So here's our voy a. Okay. I'm going to go to the pool because I have to swim. So we have tengo que with our verb nadar here. So let's do another one. I am going to say, nosotros vamos a el parque porque tenemos que practicar. So here we have our vamos al or vamos a here. And we're using al because we're using el parque. And a and el, they get mushed together. So we are going to the park because we have to practice. So here's our verb of tener que with practicar. So I'll do one more here. So I might say, ellos van a dormir porque we are going to, no, we're going to say, ellos van a el centro comercial. So they are going to the mall porque tienen que ir de compras. Okay, so here we have van with our a here. So they are going to the mall because there's our tener que, because they have to go shopping. So you're gonna, for that assignment, just keep going with a few more sentences, and it can kind of mirror some of these items with our ir plus a as well as tener que. So as I jump back up to the agenda here, the very last item says para y infinitivo. So we're looking at infinitives here. So when you have para plus an infinitive, you are saying that you're in order to do something. So these items say answer these questions in complete sentences using para plus an infinitive. So similar to our ir plus al plus an infinitive, you can have tener que plus an infinitive, and you can also have para plus an infinitive. And keep in mind, an infinitive has AR, ER, IR on the end. And this one here is signifying in order to do something. So let's go ahead and I'm just going to do this. And you're going to answer these questions in complete sentences. So I'll go ahead and make these a little bit larger here so we can see. So the first one just says, ¿Por qué vas al centro comercial? So why do you go to the mall? So I could say, I could use here, yo voy al centro comercial para, so you could say tengo que, but you can also say para comprar zapatos. Okay, so I'm going to the mall in order to buy shoes. So here's our para plus an infinitive. Okay, so let's do another one. ¿Dónde van ustedes para nadar? Where do you all go in order to swim? So I'm going to say nosotros vamos a la piscina para nadar. So we are going to the pool in order to swim. So here's our para with an infinitive. And we'll do one more together. So we have, ¿Qué haces para recibir buenas notas? What do you have to do in order to receive or get good grades? So I can say, yo estudio mucho para recibir buenas notas. Okay, so here we have para in our infinitive. So I study a lot in order to get good grades. So there's a few more items on there. So this one is para plus infinitivo. Okay, and we'll just move this up here. So there are two more on there that you can go ahead and continue on looking at that para plus an infinitive saying in order to do something. All right, so let's jump back and we're going into concept 3, ¿Qué prefieres? So this one's a big one. ¿Qué prefieres? We're looking at what we are calling shoe verbs or boot verbs. So with this first assignment, and this one is, like I said, a little bit of a larger one, when you look at these instructional materials, so I'm going to go ahead to our concept 3, and even on that concept 3 page, there's a list of irregular verbs that you'll conjugate. So they're called stem changing verbs. So this video is pretty good and it's catchy and it will help you remember how to conjugate certain irregular verbs. But Our irregular shoe or boot verbs, they have a spelling change inside of the boot or the shoe. So, and here's a list. So I'm going to take just this example so that we can say the spelling changes happens inside of the boot or the shoe, but it stays the same outside of the boot. So we can see we have empiezo, empieza, empieza, empezamos, empezáis, empiezan. So these are some of our conjugations of our, what we're going to call boot verbs or shoe verbs. And we're going to refer to these as our irregulares or our irregular verbs. So I'm going to put this here as an example, and then let's go ahead and grab our other list of irregular verbs. So all of these verbs here and the meanings of them are on our vocab list. They have a change inside of the boot or the shoe according to what's up top. So E to IE, the second to the last E changes inside the boot or the shoe. O to UE, the second to the last O changes to UE inside of the boot or the shoe. And same with E to IE. So when we start, we are looking at this assignment. It's called ¿Qué preguntas con irregulares? Okay, so questions with irregulars here. So I'm going to just go ahead and place this here. Preguntas con irregulares. So each of these has an irregular verb within it. So we see here, ¿Qué prefieres más, mirar la tele o escuchar música? Which do you prefer more, watching TV or listening to music? So I may answer this and say, yo prefiero escuchar música. Okay. So I prefer to listen to music, and I can add más in there, but here's our irregular verb. So next here we have juegas deportes. Do you play sports? And juegas is one of our boot or shoe verbs. So it has a change. And what sports do you play? So I might say no juego deportes. So I'm saying, nope, I don't play sports. Okay, so I'm just gonna go like this here. And here is our irregular verb. So another one, ¿A qué hora empieza la escuela? At what time does school start? So I might say, la escuela empieza a las 8:30. So school starts at 8:30. So we're taking this empieza, the shoe verb, and we're answering the question. And we'll do one more together here. So here, ¿Qué tienes en tu mochila? What do you have in your book bag? So I might say, yo tengo mi computadora. So I have my computer. So you'll go through and you'll check out these irregular verbs here. So almuerzan, quieres, juegan, tienes, pueden, y duermes, and you'll be changing those slightly for who you are or for how they are being answered. So let me jump back up. So once we start with those questions, then you move on to some of the practice conjugations again. So verbos irregulares, and I'm going to go ahead and start, and I'll bring this up so we can look at it together. So as we start this, you'll see there are some verbs in parentheses, okay? So the verb tener is going to be on our list here for our E to IE verbs. So what happens with tener is when it's inside of the boot or the shoe, you conjugate it. So ella is inside of her boot or shoe. Now this is also an ER verb, so some of our endings will be different, and I can add another image there, but the E is going to change to IE, tiene, ella tiene. So here we have the verb repetir. So you're going to take off the IR, and la profesora is she. So this is an E to I. La profesora repite la pregunta. She repeats the question. La escuela, and here is our verb empezar again, and that's actually this one over here. La escuela empieza a las 8:30. So school starts at 8:30. So we have our ending with our change inside of it. So now we have mis amigos y yo. This is our nosotros form. So with this one, it does not change, okay, because it's outside of the boot or shoe. So it just keeps and hangs on to the O. Mis amigos y yo almorzamos. So our next one here, we have yo and the verb dormir. So we're back inside of that boot or shoe, and this one is an O-D-U-E. So yo duermo en mi casa. I sleep in my house. And we'll do one more together here. Here's a nosotros, which is outside of that boot or shoe. So we're going to say nosotros jugamos. There is no change there with that. So you'll continue on kind of going through and practicing with the conjugations of those verbs. And then we will move on to, and this is saying el proyecto de irregulares. So I always like to be able to give you some kind of some freedom to create and use verbs that you want. So you are going to take a look at this these list of verbs, and you are going to create some type of you're going to create 15 sentences, and you can put the sentences or have the sentences in a doc. You can put it on a presentation. You can do a video. It's totally up to you. You don't have to do both, but you will write the sentences and you have to have some type of representation of what they mean. So if I were to say something like, yo duermo mucho, I sleep a lot, and I wanted to video it, I could just go like this. Okay, and have that be the representation. But let's go ahead and do some of these examples together. So this one is el proyecto de irregulares, and this is where you'll have 15 sentences using those irregular or shoe verbs. So I'm going to jump back here, and I'm going to use the verb querer, do one. So nosotros queremos que personas son simpáticas. Okay, so we want that people are nice. So here is our verb that we're looking for our project. So let's go ahead to another one. I may say that I want to use the verb almorzar, to eat lunch. So here we go. Yo almuerzo a un restaurante los viernes. So I eat lunch at a restaurant on Fridays. So there's another example there. So let me go back, and now we'll pick one from the E to I. So you can see that, and we'll go ahead with repetir, to repeat. So you can see I had an E to IE, but you know what? Let's do one more. I'm going to say yo quiero. Yo quiero comer el bistec. So I want to eat steak. So here is querer with the change, but up there doesn't have the change just because this one's outside of the boot or shoe. So I'm going to do another example like that using the verb almorzar. So nosotros almorzamos en escuela todos los días. So we eat lunch at school each day. So you can see that the ones have the change that are outside of the boot, or that are in the boot or shoe, and then our nosotros form does not. So I'm going to use ellos repiten las palabras. Okay, so they repeat the verbs or the words, and then I might say nosotros repetimos, no change, la canción. So we repeat the song. So there are 6 examples of some of those sentences. And then I would go head out and pick an image to go along with each, or I could use a video and read them and then have some type of action to represent what they mean. So now we'll jump back here, and I know it is a las nueve, so I have 2 more concepts to take a look at. So I'm going to keep going, but as we go through here, this next one is ¿Qué te interesa? So, ¿cómo se dice here? What interests you? So, this first assignment with ¿cómo se dice? You are going to give, and let's go ahead and open this one up. So with this one, you're going to conjugate what's inside of those sentences. And verbs like interesa and other items, they're changed a little bit differently. So it depends on what comes after it. So when you look at this and see, ¿te gusta jugar el voleibol? ¿Te gusta jugas? ¿Te gusta jugas? Well, they're both the same. So with this one, we've been talking a little bit about infinitives. Gustar with an infinitive after it is saying you like, do you like to play volleyball? So our first answer there is the correct one. So next, ¿cómo se dice y'all like to play golf? So we're going to use like to play. So it's either going to be this middle one, os gusta jugar, or vosotros gusta jugar. And with our verb gustar, we're going to be using me, te, le, nos, os, les with it. And all of that is available inside of these instructional materials. So I'm going to go back and say there's a bunch of items here that kind of highlights it, a nice song there. And then this chart right here helps with me, te, le, nos, os, so on, with using those types of things with the verb gustar. So let's do another one. It's saying, ¿cómo se dice I like Spanish? So with this verb like, you're going to be using me gusta español. So we'll do another one here. ¿Cómo se dice you like to read? So it has to be one of these two because it has leer, to read. And with an infinitive after it, it's just te gusta leer. So our next one, and this will be the last one we do together for this one, he likes soccer and she likes tennis. Okay, so we are going to be using gusta because soccer and tennis are singular. So le gusta el fútbol y le gusta el tenis. So it's this one here. Okay, if it was this middle one, les gusta el fútbol y tenis, it would be saying that they like. So we're separating it there with that top one, le gusta. And again, all of these instructional materials are super helpful with that assignment. So now we're going to ¿quién le gusta? And this assignment is a discussion board. And it's just asking the question to, here we go, write 5 sentences that answer ¿qué te gusta? What do you like? So let's do an example or two here. I'm going to add this. So you're answering the question, ¿qué te gusta? What do you like? So an example of one of these sentences, and I'll do a few. I could say, me gusta pasar tiempo con mi familia. So I like to spend time with my family. I might use nos gusta jugar muchos partidos. We like to play a lot of games. And I'll add another one. Me gusta ir al lago durante el verano. Okay, I like to go to the lake during the summer. So there are 3 sentences so far, but you'll be using that me gusta, or you can change it up to nos gusta to signify some things that you would like to do. All right, so the last item in this concept is, oh, there's 2 more, lo siento. So we have traducciones. So you're going to take these sentences and write them from English into Spanish. Now keep in mind, we're going to be using, and I'm just going to include that on this right here. And I'll edit that later. Okay, so we're going to do, we'll do a few of these ones together. So keep in mind that you will be using that me, te, le, nos, os, les. So let me go ahead and grab that just to keep this together here. All right. And again, I guess I could format this later, but we are going to take, and the vocab for those verbs are all listed in that one section of the concept materials, but it's saying Juan likes to play football. So I could just say, le gusta jugar el fútbol americano. And if you wanted to add Juan, you could say Juan le gusta jugar. Okay, so we're using for he in this sentence. So next, I love music. Me encanta la música. Okay, so here's my me with our verb that's similar to gustar. The next, sports interest them. So I would say les interesan los deportes. And there's an on here because los deportes is plural. And we're using les because we're saying them. And the last one we'll do here, baseball bores her. So it goes backwards. We're going to start off with our her. Le aborre el baseball. Now, all of these verbs like fascinates, missing, bother, all of those verbs, they are listed on our vocabulary to go along with these items. So now the last one in that task is called indirect objects. Okay, so we're looking at some translations here. So an indirect object pronoun is talking about or referring to who, to whom or for whom. So they talk to us. I give you a book. So we're going to take some of these here and let me bounce back over here. And I'm going to just add another item here. And we will complete some of these ones together. So they talk to us. Okay. So ellos, so we're going to start with our they. Ellos hablan. So now we need two us. So we can see here we have nos. When we take that indirect object pronoun, we are going to place it in front of the conjugated verb. So ellos nos hablan. So they speak to us, or they talk to us. So our next one here, I give you a book. So where did I go here? Okay. So I'm going to use yo doy un libro. Okay, so I give a book. To who do I give a book to? You. So yo te doy un libro. So you place it in front of that conjugated verb. So the next one, she listens to them. Okay, so ella escucha. And now we need to them. So we're going to use the them. We're going to place it before the conjugated verb. Ella les escucha. She listens to them. So you'll use these indirect object pronouns and you'll continue on with these traducciones. Okay, and I'm going to put IOP for indirect object pronouns. All right, so now our last concept for the evening is called ¿Cuál es la mejor? What is the best? So once I click on this, you are going to be talking about or making comparisons. So mejor is talking about better or best. These items, you're just going to compare these items in parentheses. You are going to use, and there's a lot of instructional materials, you're going to use the word in parentheses along with those two items given. So, ¿cuál es mejor? Which is better, and it's totally up to you how these come about. So, I want to compare un carro, a car, and a bicycle, and use the word rápido. So I might say, un carro es más rápido que una bicicleta. Okay. So a car is faster than a bicycle. So we're comparing it. So la práctica y el partido, and the verb or the word interesante. So I might say, el partido es más interesante que la práctica. So the game is more interesting than the practice. Now I could take this and say la práctica es menos interesante que el partido. So there are numbers of ways that you can do it. You don't necessarily need to use this, but you will be using a más or a menos and the word que. So I'll do one more, la clase de español y la clase de matemáticas. So I might use español. La clase de español es más, no es más difícil que las matemáticas. So it is not as difficult as math. So you'll continue on with those other items. And our very last one within this is called tanto como. And these are ways to compare certain items to. So you're saying I have as many shoes or as much. So when we take a look at this, tanto como, and we'll start this, you're going to choose what you're going to use. So number one, it says Juan tiene dos padres, Maria tiene dos padres. So they both have two families or two parents. So it's saying Maria tiene tantos padres como Juan. So she has as many parents as Juan. So we're using tantos. So here, hay un plato de pollo, hay un plato de beefsteak. So we have a plate of chicken and a plate of beef, steak. So hay tanto pollo como beefsteak. So we're using tanto because of pollo here. So the next one, mi prima bebe blank vasos como mi primo. So without even looking at those sentences, I'm going to use tantos because I'm referring to vasos. Okay, so she has as many vases as my cousin. All right, or glasses there. So Pablo duerme 9 horas. Elena duerme 9 horas. So Elena duerme tantas horas como Pablo. So we're using tantas because of the word horas. She sleeps as many hours as Pablo. And this is the last one we'll do. El niño come dos manzanas. La niña come dos manzanas. So they both eat 2 apples. So la niña come tantas manzanas como el niño. So there's your as there because of manzanas. So all of the vocabulary for that concept is listed inside of the instructional materials. And I know I kind of rushed through those last few, but I'm going to go ahead and jump back up to our form here, to our agenda. Keep in mind the recording of this I will share out later. And let me go ahead and stop the recording.